Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're listening. Welcome back to AI and the Future of Work. Thanks again for making this one of the most downloaded podcasts about the future of work. If you enjoy what we do, please like, comment, and share in your favorite podcast app. And we'll keep sharing great conversations like the one we have for today. As always, I'm your host, Dan Turchin, CEO of PeopleRain, the AI platform for IT and HR employee service. I'm also an investor in and advisor to more than 30 AI-first companies, and as you know, a firm believer in the power of technology to make humans better. If you're passionate about changing the world with AI, or maybe just looking for your next adventure, let's talk. We learn from AI thought leaders weekly on this show, and of course, the added bonus is you get one AI fun fact each week. Today's fun fact, we're only just beginning to explore the ethics of generative AI. Lost in the hype about generating text and images from simple prompts is the fact that AI is neither correct, nor does it respect copyright laws when it's output by tools like ChatGPT. Generative AI is trained on publicly available content on the internet. It finds patterns in large data sets and combines text and images to generate new ones based on text prompts. It seems like magic because what it does so exceptionally well. But the darker side is also worth considering. What happens when your copyrighted content is leaked onto the public internet and appears in modified ways in AI-generated text or images? What happens when it's used to sell products or in ways that might cause harm? We haven't even started to think about the ethical implications of generative AI. It's exciting to think about a future where we're all expert content creators, but it's incumbent on us as technology leaders to build in the right guardrails to prevent bad actors from using good technology in unintended ways. Now, these are partly my thoughts, but they're also thoughts from an insightful article titled Digging into the Buzz and Fanfare Over Generative AI, including looming AI ethics and AI law considerations. And it was published recently by Lance Elliott in Forbes. As always, I will link to the full article in the show notes. But now shifting to this week's conversation, it's going to be a fun one. Today's guest has been leading IT organizations for more than 2 decades. Among his many accolades, he was recently named a 2022 Orby Bay Area CIO of the Year and was also the first IT leader hired at Salesforce way back in 2000. Carter understands the challenges of managing tech infrastructure for high-growth tech companies where there's zero margin for error because everyone thinks they know how to do tech better than you. CIOs are like plumbing. Nobody appreciates them when everything's working, but they're the first to get blamed when there's a blockage. Carter Busse has been an IT leader at successful high-growth organizations ranging from Salesforce to Mobile Iron to 8x8 to Cohesity. He's now the CIO of Rising Star Workato, the integration automation platform that has raised more than $400 million, was most recently valued at nearly $6 billion, and has about 1,000 employees in 13 offices around the world. Without further ado, Carter, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the podcast. Let's get started by having you maybe share a little bit more about your illustrious background.
Yeah, Dan, thank you. And first, thanks for having me. I really am humbled, and I appreciate that tidbit on AI. I think in the last week, I was at a conference and the ChatGPT has come up so many times and in the news, and your point is well taken, very well taken. So thank you for that bit of knowledge. Yeah, about myself, you summed up quite a bit. I've been doing IT for over 3 decades now, actually. So to kind of data myself there, I started my career at Andrews Consulting as a COBOL programmer. I got out to the Bay Area. I heard about a company called Excited Home that was bringing internet to the homes, and I joined that company installing client server applications. It took a long time to get the server up and running, and then the application. I got the application going about 6 months later, and then I was doing that, and I heard about a company in the city in 1999 called Salesforce.com. They were doing something neat about putting these applications on this internet. I got an interview with Mark Benioff, and I said, "Hey, Mark, if you can put these applications from client server, like I'm building the client server, put them in the cloud and make them very easy and configurable, this is going to be a gold mine. And yeah, I got the first IT person, IT leader at Salesforce there for 10 years, did everything in IT imaginable, everything keeping the lights on, including being the first Salesforce admin at Salesforce. And then I got an opportunity to run business operations at Mobile Iron, and where I went from a IT leader keeping the lights on to being more strategic leader, and I actually ran business operations, and I really got to see the value of how IT can bring value to the business. And I slowly and I was very passionate about integrating processes and applications together at Mobile Iron, and then at 8x8, and then at Cohesity. And during that time frame, I saw Workato about 4.5 years ago, and I saw the power this tool could bring to a CIO and the IT organization with a really intuitive UI and an amazing scale. And I saw that the CIO could move so much faster with something like Workato. And that job was open, and I basically went and asked for it because I'm really passionate about the space, and I haven't felt this way about the momentum of a product or the space since I was at Salesforce. So that's how I got here, is IT integration automation, and now I'm gonna feel like a leader in the space. That's my journey in a nutshell.
A friend of mine named Mark Settle has been on the show a couple times. He's a 7-time CIO, and most recently he was at Okta, and I got acquired into BMC Software. He was the CIO there. And interestingly, Mark has a PhD in geology. And so I always like to tease him about that being the logical path to becoming a CIO. And he's written a couple books on it, and he really talks about, his role as being a people manager and, being an evangelist for a product, and a lot of things that really don't involve being a technologist. How would you describe your role? What kind of CIO are you?
Mark is one of my mentors, and Mark is a big part of my network, and Mark is actually the reason I'm here at Workato. He's the one that told me that they were thinking about CIO role here. So full circle, he's a big part of my life, actually. How do I describe my role as a CIO? And I kind of think about, how do I describe this to my grandmother or my mother or my kids often? And I say I kind of do at home what I do at work. What I do at home, kids, it's I give you the internet. I give the company the internet. I'm the connective tissue, or my team, and we are the connective tissue to a lot of the business processes and all the technology that helps drive a business. And they kind of get that. So that's really how I describe the role here, is we're the connectivity tissue. We enable our business, our employees to do amazing things with technology. So that's how I see my role, and I'm passionate about enabling that across the business.
Now, CIOs are notorious for having the shortest tenure in the C-suite. Assuming you agree with that, I know our mutual friend Mark does. Why would you say that that's the case?
Yeah, Mark and I have talked about that quite a bit, and he's had some long tenure, so he's got the magic touch. And why is short tenure? We CIOs are really in the middle of some major initiatives in the company, and some initiatives some aren't so fun, like a new ERP system or a new CRM system, a new billing system. They're critical for the business, but are they the fun visibility projects, right, that everyone wants to work on? Not really. And we often really need business support to put these in successfully. And the business needs to help and set up and take the risk and take the ownership. And so oftentimes, and I've seen it happen, and oftentimes it does not happen. And when these projects go south, when they start increasing, their budget increases, I guess they point the finger at. So I think that's part of the reason I've seen some of my peers get stuck in that situation, and they've had some short tenures. I think that's number one. And then security, right? Security is another necessary evil we all have to deal with. We as CIOs, Mark talks about it a lot, and we constantly have to push for resources and money, and it's hard to get. But if there's an incident, there's a breach, where the buck stops with me, the CIO. So those are the two. I've seen people have some quick career ending, and it's because of the situations. I work hard try to mitigate that.
Before we started recording, you and I were talking a little bit about the role of AI for employee service and specifically the importance of practicing responsible AI. What's your perspective on the role that AI can or will in the future play on improving the employee experience?
Yeah, Dan, we were talking about that offline. You're right, and exactly where your company plays in, I think, is a great enabler and a great start. Where people reign is right where I feel like there is the biggest opportunity for everybody in kind of operations role in a company, HR, IT, legal, sales ops, customer ops. I think there's an amazing opportunity to help automate just some common answers, some common questions for the business, and then kick off not answers for knowledge base, but also kick off some automations, maybe with an app. And like, for example, we kick off automations if you request a new app. But today you have to create a ticket. Basically, you have to create a ticket in a bot. But if you can imagine, just say type in, "Hey, I would like app A," and we know who you are, what role you're in, what access you need, and we just provision it right there for you. It's almost like I want to create the Genius Bar. Everybody before COVID had a Genius Bar. Apple made every IT leader do that in the company, where you just walk up, there's an IT person there, and you kind of got service and wherever you need. I want to recreate that Genius Bar with AI, and that's what PeopleRain is doing. That's exactly right. That space, I think, is a big enabler. Another space is, like, I think where you were in before too, is with Insight Finder, is automating, like looking at events, looking at events in your systems, looking at events in security. We're starting to think about this. Is bringing in, we use a lot of security tools here, bringing those into a logging tool, but actually with some AI and some intelligence and connecting some dots, actually automate shutting down a machine, shutting down access. So those are the two big practical ways. And you've been in this space, so I can't wait to get to know you more and really start to implement that.
Likewise, unbelievable that it's taken us this long to meet, and this is how we end up meeting.
We're practically in the same town.
Exactly, right. We're neighbors. So I mentioned in the fun fact about generative AI and some of the ethical implications that we're just only we're weeks or even maybe months at best into even thinking about what we should be concerned about when it comes to ethical use or ethical implications of generative AI. What does it mean to practice responsible AI to you?
I'm a practical person, and I got to put this in practical terms. Like, when I think of those statements, I think of what you can use AI to maybe help with interview process, looking at resumes. Use generative AI, and depending on what it's pulling from, you could get a very a select list of employees that maybe don't fit, maybe are in the wrong kind of profile, if you're really trying to diversify, right? So with that use case example, there has got to be some responsibility on the engine, tuning the engine. That I don't have the intelligence for that, but it's got to be whatever the machine language or the data the AI sits on top of. There's got to be some governance to it, because people will take it for fact. Look at ChatGPT. Like, the people are just taking it for chat. And I tried to log in today, couldn't log into it. It was too busy. It was too busy today. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is actually driving people's decisions right now. It really is. It's becoming so powerful in the last couple of weeks. So, and I just, like we were talking offline, I just started thinking about how AI, and the responsibility of AI. I didn't think there was a problem, but there really is here.
So you mentioned some great use cases within the enterprise for AI or for AI-driven automation, infrastructure automation, IT and HR employee service. I'm going to put you on the spot. So let's say, one of your direct reports comes to you with a great idea, full of amazing upside for the potential of using AI to automate some task, some process, maybe pick infrastructure automation. As a leader, what are the questions that you're asking to make sure that initiative gets deployed in a way that isn't exclusively focused on the upside, of which there's always a lot, but also maybe on the question of what could go wrong if AI makes poor automated decisions?
As I've been learning about AI and talking to yourself and some other folks in the space, it's like what data is this AI engine looking at? Where are they getting the data? Would be my first question, because as I'm learning, and then how can we tune it without having some data scientists? Those are my questions I've been asking my team, because we are excited about it and they're bringing it to me. And those are the questions I've learned to ask from what I've read and listened to people like you. So it's the data and how easily can I tune the engine and stop it if it's going haywire, and how can we test it before it actually takes action? Because we'll take AI and automate it. That's what we do as a business. But how do we test it?
You're spot on in that all AI is really a data problem, and the accuracy or the value of the AI-driven automation is 100% dependent on the consistency and it's not so much the volume, but the quality or the consistency, or what we call the data hygiene. And so if you have a team that's evaluating, you ask the right question, where's the data coming from? How much do we know about it? What's your process for making sure that AI ultimately benefits employees, given that it could potentially make decisions like you'd mentioned, like hiring is a good one to be aware of, where it can inadvertently make decisions that demonstrate the latent bias in the data. How do you think about the potential of bad data to lead to bad decisions?
A lot, Dan. We're just scratching the surface here. That's why answering basic employee questions on like PTO and benefits and my laptop's broken, probably not too risky. But even without AI, Dan, how often have you seen in companies executives making bad decisions on bad data? And that was always scared the hell out of me, and something I've been passionate about creating a very governed data model, like even our business data, our data warehouse. Nothing's new there. We've been trying to solve that problem for years. Bad data has always been a problem for IT folks.
It starts with an awareness.
In every situation, you're right. It starts with an awareness.
So in the past, back when you were cutting your teeth, let's say at Salesforce, we used to talk about the CIO as being a technology traffic cop, telling employees what they can and can't do. And then I'd say maybe, over the last, call it decade, we've thought more about the role of the CIO as being a technology visionary or a proponent for new ways to use technology to help the business innovate. Across that spectrum, if you look at a day in your life, are you a traffic cop? Are you a visionary? Are you both? What do you think is the way that you're actually delivering value to the business?
So I have a good story here. I was a traffic cop, and I'm trying to get to visionary. That's always our end goal. I can't ever say I'll be there, but that's our end goal. So I was a traffic cop at Mobile Iron. I controlled every application. I shouldn't say we IT controlled domain access, admin access to all the foundational applications. New sales ops leader came in with 3 lieutenants. Said, "Hey, I need my team to have Salesforce admin access." I said, "No, I'm not giving that to you. There's no way." It went over email, escalated over email, went out to and escalated into a shouting match with me and her in a very open office. And I never had a shouting match like this in the office. And the Gophers were popping up over their heads, and we were in this big fight. It went back to email. I actually won the argument with the CFO, had to get involved. But I didn't make any friends in sales. I didn't make any friends in sales leadership. And after my ego was less and dust settled, I went back to her and said, "Hey, why? I should have asked you, why do you need access?" She says, "Carter, you guys aren't moving fast enough. We can help you with this low-level configuration, the setup stuff, changing values in fields. You need to focus on the big nuggets, the new CPQ system, the new billing system we're getting. Focus on that. We can help you." I'm like, oh, yeah, she's kind of right. So that was a big learning experience for me. And I feel like you're right. We need to be enablers of technology, and with the right, governance and discipline, you can do that. And that's where like Workato is. We spent a lot of investment, a big investment in our architecture to not only automate and integrate all your business processes, but also to be able to govern as an IT leader, be able to govern this tool and actually give it to the business technologists in the business who know what they're doing, and having IT actually put the controls in to put the automation in production. And then you'll find some amazing creativity, automation or configuration in the business that IT will never be able to do. I big believer in that, and there is a big reason why I'm at Workato, because we're a big believer in what we call system integration, system development, which those terms kind of still scare me a bit. But I think that's the way IT leaders need to be. We need to be thinking more about the architecture and the data flow and how to enable that better with the business. So trying to get the visionary down, I think that's always a goal for many of us. I'll look to Mark Settle to help me with those things too.
One of the biggest challenges that CIOs face these days is that, unlike before the pandemic, where there were a small number, I referenced the number 13 is what I saw online, Workato global offices, but now you're supporting remote and hybrid workers. And so essentially as a CIO, let's just be honest. I mean, you've got as many offices as you have employees. And in light of this conversation about, trying to not be a traffic cop, but meanwhile, the security of your employees is at stake, and you're introducing new tools for them to work better remotely. What's your trick for how you're managing the increased workload and increased responsibility while still trying to innovate?
Well, I've always talked to my team about this is let's really focus on the big value projects, really be tight with the business. There's always so much noise in every business I've worked at, every company I worked with, but making sure we're aligned with the company vision and values, and make sure we're innovative in those areas has always been key to me. With a diverse workforce, it's challenging. A lot of my team is in Asia, in Singapore and Philippines and India specifically. Some are in the East Coast here, West Coast. So it is very challenging, and I think it's actually more challenging for the managers than the ICs who are mainly in Asia, because we feel like we have to take the brunt of the time zone hits. But I think it just gets great communication, comes down to really good communication, and working on those high value projects that allow us to innovate.
So Carter, let's say it's a decade from now, it's the end of 2032, and we're having a version of this conversation. What's one tech-enabled work behavior that will be commonplace then that today might just seem like science fiction?
And it kind of goes back to that ChatGPT, and it goes back to data and business decisions. And there's how many times you've been in a meeting, Dan, where like someone says, well, how many customers do we have in this segment and who have bought this product? And imagine being able to ask that question to like a ChatGPT, and then you actually get accurate data, and you trust that data to make a very quick business decision. And I thought, so I think that may be a couple years away, but again, it's back to the data. It needs to be clean, right? I also think too, like I look at my son who's big into fantasy football. He's 12 years old, and these apps are amazing at predicting if he's going to win or not, based on like the time of the games and who's playing. And it's just, I don't know what's behind it, but I thought, like, imagine if a company could predict their quarter with like how fantasy football predicts who's going to win or not, what team's going to win, with all that data and the timing and the weather, and it's going to be there. It's close. It really is. So those are when I saw that question there, I thought of my son's fantasy football team.
We can do it with fantasy football. I'm not sure that it's going to take a whole decade to get there with data and decisions about financials and things like that.
No, I look to the decade. I look at how I'm a big in-person office person. I come to the office 2 days a week. I'm probably the only person that comes 2 days a week. And somehow we could recreate this experience with virtual reality. It'd be pretty neat. I do think we're losing innovation. We're losing productivity. How do we get that back?
Do you envision that, being able to work with your colleagues in a virtual space in the Philippines or wherever they may be, as effectively as if you were in the same office?
It would be nice. Yes, I would like that.
Carter, we're about out of time. I know it feels like we're just getting started, but I'm not letting you off the hot seat without answering one last question for me. So harken back 20 plus years, you're a fresh-faced kid at Salesforce, or maybe even Excited Home, even before Salesforce. And the Carter of today is having a conversation with that Carter. What's your advice to that younger version of yourself?
I never heard it put that way. And this isn't like the questions. I was more nervous about the AI questions from you, Dan, than these ones. We kind of touched on it. Is building your network. The network I have with Mark Settle and the network I have with my CIO peers in the Silicon Valley, grow that. I didn't start growing this network till about 6-7 years ago, and I wouldn't be where I am today and my knowledge and my career without people like Mark Settle and other CIOs in my network. And my advice to go those vendor dinners. Vendors ask us dinners all the time. You're going to meet other CIOs there, or other VPs, or other directors there. Go. That could be your next job. Could be an interview. Could be a boss. Even the sales reps there. Sales reps are really good about referring other leaders to companies. So keep up your network and get out there. I wish I was told that 20 years ago, because I was very much an introvert and wasn't very social. So I've changed that.
Will you encourage your son to be a CIO?
Wow. Yeah, I think he's going to be the epitome of a great sales leader. Actually, he's smart, but he's also he's a good leader, and he's very believable. So I see him going down that path. He still looks at me for a lot of technology skills. I say, you can figure this out. You're smarter than me, buddy. So I don't know. I see him as a really good sales executive, or like a CEO. That's where I kind of see him.
Carter, really enjoyed this conversation. We will hopefully have you back here for another one. A lot of important topics we didn't get a chance to cover.
Dan, thank you so much. Humble you. I got mentioned with Mark Settle, and I got to be part of this podcast. So thank you so much.
Where can our audience learn more about you and the work of Workato?
Yes. Well, thank you. Obviously, our website, workato.com. I'm on LinkedIn, and we can put it in this podcast section. But yeah, I do. I get a lot of LinkedIn links about Workato and automation and integration. So reach out to me directly, please. Carter, thanks for hanging out. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you. Gosh, that's a wrap for another week of AI and the future of work. As always, I'm your host, Dan Turchin, signing off. But of course, we're back next week with another fascinating guest.